Hello, first-time coders. The objective of today's lab is to study scope. However, we'll be using functions because it's easier to demonstrate scope with functions. So what is scope in Python? Scope is our ability to access a Python object. So, for example, uh, a Python object like a variable which is accessible uh, in any part of your code, then that variable or object is having a global scope. So we have leg B as the types of scopes. We have local scope, which means that the variable is only accessible within a certain part of your code. We have encapsulated. We'll see that later, but it is a more narrower version of local variable. And then we have global, which is accessible in any part of your code. And then we have built-in. Built-in have are also accessible everywhere in your code, but they come with the Python program. They are not created by the user like the global variables. So the built-in are like the keywords which you can access in any part of your code. Okay, so let's start with the global variable. Okay, so let's say we have a function called fun1. If we run the code, we cannot access the function because the computer would come and it will try to run the main part of the code, which is the part that is not in any function, but we don't have anything there. So we can add like fun1 to call this function. So if we call the function will run. Okay, so as our code reaches line 7, it will see fun1. Then it will remember, oh, I have seen fun1 before. Then it goes back to fun1 and then it starts running the code. We can see that the value of x inside the function is 100. Now let's try seeing the value of x outside the function. Okay, so if we say print outside fun1, and then we say print x. So if there are no scope, what do we expect from this code? So what we are saying here is that when your code is coming, it will see the define, but it will just take note of it and then it will go because it has no permission to access it. So when it sees this line which is not inside any define, it will execute it. It will run this code, print, create the variable x, and then print x, and then it returns back to line 7. Then it continues from there. It sees this, print output, outside fun1, and then it sees print x equal to x. So if our variable, since our variable has been created here, we should expect to see the variable print the same type of output as it has done inside the function. So let's try the code. If we run it, we get a name error. The name error you can check our video on how to read errors in functions. The link is at the top right corner. You can see that x is not defined, which means the function is telling you that I don't know what x is. Okay, now what can we do about this? This is just telling us that after x was created in this function, it is destroyed once we come out of the function. And that's why the main part of the Python code has no idea what x is. Now let's try another thing. Let's say we have a second function that tries to print x. Let's call this function fun2. And we say we are inside fun2, and then we try printing x. So now if we call fun1, then we call fun2, let's see what's going to happen. If we run the code, you can see that we are having error inside the message for fun1. The error message is telling us we have a problem in line 9. Okay, so what is the problem in line 9? X is not defined. And what is this line 9? Line 9 is in fun2. So if you remember, I told you just go to the last bit of the error message and you will get your message. But the other one is simply just telling us that the error came from line 13, because line 13 tries to call fun, and then when it called fun, then it enters into fun and it's going smoothly until it reaches line 9 where it finds the error. So that's what the error message is saying. So now you can see from this error, we are seeing that even fun2 doesn't know what x is. So this function doesn't know what x is, and the main doesn't know what x is. Let's try calling fun2 from fun1 after we create the variable. So if we put this here, let's add a message that says print colon fun2, so that we know that indeed fun2 was called. Okay, so what we are hoping here is that, so my hope is that when we come here, of course it's not going to run. It will just say, oh, I have seen fun1, hi fun1. It will see fun2, it will say hi to fun2. It will just come to the main part of the code, which is here. It will see the call for fun1. So now it has an excuse to enter fun1. So when it enters fun1, it should print inside fun1, and then it will create the variable x. Then it should print x equal to x, 100. Then it should print colon fun2. Then it calls fun2. Now it will jump. Now it has excuse to jump to fun2. So it will go to fun2. It will start running fun2. So it will say, oh, inside fun2. And then it will see line 11, which is print x. So our hope is that when it comes here, it should print, if it can access the variable, it should just say x equal to 100. Now when it sees return, it goes back to this line, which is line 6. Then it goes to the next line, which is line 7, which allows it to go back to the main function, which is line 14. And then from there, it continues with line 15 and 16. Okay, So let's see. Now if we run the code, we can see that, okay, so now let's study the error message. So if you look at the error message, you would see that, okay, your code says the problem started when the main function in line 14 called function 1. But it says, okay, we entered function 1 and we are doing well when function 1 called function 2. And then it says, okay, we entered function 2 and we are doing well, but we encountered an error in line 11. What is the error? That we don't know what x is. So we can see that, the problem is when you create a variable inside a function, then it only exists inside that function. Okay, now let's try, so this is what we call a local variable. So to make your life easy, let me explain it in a different way. Think of your functions like houses. It works all the time, believe me. So think of your functions like houses, okay? So the only way you can get the key to the house is if you get a call. So the call is like allowing you to enter the house. So what we have here is that this first function is a house, is blocked. And the only way you can enter the house is from here. Okay. The next one is this other one. Okay. And it's also blocked. It has a door from here. Okay. But since there is no define here, so this is just like an alley, like the playground. You can enjoy yourself. Anything you leave here can be enjoyed by everybody. So that means if your code comes, it cannot enter here because it's blocked. It cannot enter here, it's blocked, but it can do anything it wants here. So when it reaches this point, it sees fun1, so now it can enter fun1. Okay, so when it enters fun1, this block is like you are inside a building, you are inside a house. Think of it like in similar games like Super Mario, when you enter into a tunnel. When you are inside the tunnel, you can only see the things within the tunnel. All right, so this is this means this only exists inside this house. Okay, so thank you for listening and see you next time.